live.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the September Annapolis Environmental Commission meeting. I'm Kathy Welker, Ward 5, Chair of the Commission. Let's start with roll call. If we could go around the horn and folks introduce themselves.
Paul Murphy.
Alicia.
And which ward? I'm sorry, which ward? Could you put your ward also?
Under the stewardship of Mrs. O'Neill, Ward 2.
Okay, thank you.
And Linda Matthew, it's also Ward 5.
Jeremy Hansen, also Ward 5.
Was that everybody? Alicia, did we get you?
I not have heard me. Alicia Roberson, Ward 7.
Thank you.
I'm a little ill, so I will be quiet today.
Yes, I'm sorry that you're not feeling well. And then also we have with us Dylan and Ashley. Do you want to announce yourselves too, please?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just to introduce Ashley, as everyone already knows, but I'm Dylan McGonich, Environmental Programs Manager, and I'm happy to introduce Ashley Diaz, our newest Environmental Programs Manager, who will be transitioning into being the liaison for the Environmental Commission. She's super experienced, comes from City of Bowie, really brings a lot to our team, and I'm excited to see what she does to help you guys out. Ashley, any comments?
No, thank you for that, Dylan. I just wanted to say hi. It's nice to meet everyone. Looking forward to working with you.
Thanks, Dylan, and thank you, Ashley. We're looking forward to working with you too. So in the documents I sent out on the 15th included the minutes from the July meeting that Dylan, thank you, Dylan, provided us. Does anybody have any changes or any questions about them? If not, I'd like to have a motion to accept them.
I
Motion
move to accept the minutes from our July meeting as submitted.
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So Dylan, I believe we were going to have Public Works join us tonight. I know I ran into the planning Department of Planning gentleman who's actually my neighbor now, Jenny's husband, who's I feel really embarrassed. I can't think of his name at the moment, but I ran into him and he was expecting to what is it?
That's me, Kathy. Eric.
Oh, sorry, Eric. God, I'm like blank, total blank. So yes, sorry about that. Yes, ran into Eric, one of my neighbors, and had a nice chat. So thanks for joining us. Was the Public Works person going to be able to join also? Oh, Anne, you're here too. Now I see you. I keep scrolling back and forth. So yes. All right, so you were going to brief us on the Truxton Green Network Connector. Let us know what's going on with that. So I'll turn it over to you, Anne and Eric.
Great. Thanks so much for having us here, and we're excited to give you an update on our progress in this project. I'm going to attempt to share a presentation now. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm going to put it in presenter mode. Okay. Can you see?
Yes, we see it. I don't know if you want to make the slides full screen.
Okay, they are full screen for me, so
It might be switching the display, and I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is,
See. Okay. Eric, do you want to give a shot?
it looked like if you put it back on the previous, actually go up to display settings at the top,
Okay.
and then switch your screens.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Swap. Yeah. Swap
Swap.
presenter view.
Any
you go.
better? Okay.
Yep.
It's been a while since I've zoomed. Okay. So, Truxton Green Network Connector. So we're just going to introduce ourselves, although we just did that a little bit. Tell you a little bit about the history of this project and where we are with the design. And then open it up for any questions and discussion. As mentioned, we have Eric Lashinsky, who's the Chief of Comprehensive Planning with the City of Annapolis here. I am Ann Roeder, a stormwater engineer with the Department of Public Works, and Mike Rosberg is the stormwater program manager. I don't know if he's on, but he's also on our team. We also have our design consultants with us today from Bayland, Megan Barnea and Jason Trevand, and I don't know if they want to say hi.
Hi, yeah, I'm Megan Barnea with Bayland Consultants, and I'm the project manager for this project.
Hi, everybody. Jason Trevand with Bayland Consultants, supervising the environmental resource management component of the project and coordinating with planning on the critical area approvals.
Thank you. Thank you both. And I mispronounced both of your last names, so there we go. Now it's been corrected. So Eric is going to give us a little background on this project because he has a longer history with it than me.
Yeah, I've probably presented on this project to the Environmental Commission before with different commissioners, but so it might be familiar to some of you. We've been focusing on this project for some time and in different pieces, and it's recently been sort of reconfigured, expanded, rebranded, I guess. And this is the first time you would have been hearing about the Truxton Green Network Connector. In the past, we would have referred to it as maybe the Hawkins Cove Living Shoreline or the Hawkins Cove Park. The location here is really key because it's not only in a gap within our water access network on Spot Creek, but it's next to our largest public housing community, Eastport Terrace and Harbor House. It's next to Truxton Park, our largest city park. So it's really in close proximity to a lot of communities and other amenities that the city has already invested in. So you can see the pink line here is showing this proximate location for this trail connector. And this is a graphic that was included as part of our redevelopment grant application for the public housing communities there. I'm going to talk about that in a second. You could go to the next slide, I think. So, you know, in a way, the goals really haven't changed so much. It's just that we're doing more with the project. It's still an opportunity to connect a number of important assets and communities, address equity shortcomings of the past, and you know, focus on the restoration potential here. This is the headwaters of Spot Creek, or one of the headwaters, I should say. There's a large conservation area connected to the Hawkins Cove shoreline that has some informal trails running through it. It's just an opportunity to really improve the natural area of Hawkins Cove, which is today it's full of sediment. It has wildlife, but it could be a lot more. And anybody who's been there would understand the potential. So the vision is really a kind of natural preserve-like setting that has a living shoreline. And today what you'd see is a dilapidated pier and bulkhead, and a lot of that has passed its useful life, and there's a better vision for this area that we have. So next slide. This really kind of distills the strategic location of Hawkins Cove, I would say, or why it's so important, and something that frankly I think we should have been addressing sooner, but it's been a really priority for this current city administration, and we've gotten quite a bit of funding for it. You can see the connection between Truxton Park and the public housing communities. And so on the Truxton Park side, you're probably aware of some of the recent investments there, the new pool, the tennis court and pickleball courts, the skate park, Pitt Moyer Rec Center. There have been some improvements to the boat ramp area. And then the orange area is where we have a major revitalization initiative called the Eastport Choice Neighborhood Initiative. And that's been funded by HUD. It was a 2-year community-led planning process that led to a transformation master plan. It was adopted by the city this past spring, or maybe winter. And so Hawkins Cove is the link between those two areas. It's used today informally by a lot of people, the trails that connect, but we're really trying to formalize everything with this project and make it more of a destination that's on the map, so to speak. You can see the forested area here between those
I was
those
too
locations.
excited. Sorry. Aaron.
No worries. I was just gonna say, I mean, you can see the stream valley between these two areas where we have a really dense forest, and if you go there, you'll see signs for the Annapolis Conservancy Board and so forth. But it's a great example, I would say, of a city conservation area that could be more available to residents as a recreation place. So and Spot Creek Conservancy has been a partner on this. I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge some of the work they've done in this area. There's a step pool conveyance system of the stream leading into the cove. That was an earlier project, and so we're sort of building on some of the prior efforts here. The next slide. In the city's comprehensive plan that was adopted last summer, we included a analysis of social vulnerability in the city that uses it used the CDC methodology, which integrates all of these criteria in the upper right: socioeconomic, household, population, housing type, transportation type factors, and to really try to understand where populations in the city are most in need. And you can kind of see the darker areas of the map are the census tracts where there's higher social vulnerability. You can see where Hawkins Cove is within that kind of crescent along it's, along the Forest Drive corridor. And then there's a piece up on College Creek along the Clay Street area. But so this project fits within one of those areas. Again, I mentioned it's in the shadow of the public housing. And so There's also a lot of rental housing nearby that I would say is kind of moderate income housing. So next slide, please. And this is another graphic from the city's comprehensive plan that shows the Greenway vision that, I think it's just kind of a pretty cursory analysis of the potential here to link the city's conservation easements and improved bike and pedestrian corridors and existing city parks. There's a lot of potential there that we're working on in a number of projects. And so this is just one where it's circled. You can see the opportunity to connect these green spaces. You can see the light green area is that conservation area. The dark green is Truxton Park. And you can see some of the planned bike trail connections nearby. Next slide. And I think this is the last of the maps. I heard you all talking about the water access plan. So glad you're reviewing that. This is a map from that plan that shows the opportunity recommendations, 63 of them. You can see number 33 and number 34 on that list are Hawkins Cove. And this is kind of key that we've distinguished between the park and the trail. The park includes the living shoreline components and some upland improvements. And then the trail is this Truxton Green Network connector. So both of those are seen as projects that will improve public water access in different ways. Again, circled on the map for clarity. Next slide. And these are just some snapshots of the conditions today that we're trying to address. In some ways there are signs of community involvement here already. I mentioned the Spa Creek Conservancy in their improvements. The Conservancy, this is an image in the middle, is of top middle is the Conservancy Board's signage. The local biking group put up this sign on the upper left at one of the trailheads. It's like impossible to see, but it's there. And then, I mentioned this area is already used by a lot of people. These kids are just one kind of user group. I mean, you'll see Navy mids running through here. You'll see people walking dogs. So it's a resource already that we just want to make sure is taken care of and improved. And you can see some images of the existing kind of parking lot. On the bottom right is where that kind of boat trailer parking is by the Truxton Park boat ramp, and the lower left is an existing sidewalk. It doesn't really connect to the resources we're talking about, but it's there. Next slide. Did you want to pick up on this slide, Ann, or should I keep going?
I think this is the last one. Just keep going. This is the last one.
Okay. So we've done quite a lot of community outreach already as part of this project. I think we keep picking up more and more people who find interest in this project as they learn more about it. But partly because we're adding on additional scope with this trail connection piece and how that connects to Truxton Park and the communities on that side of the project. And also because of some of the grants that we've received, we've spelled out a kind of continued public engagement effort that's going to involve updating our project website with new design updates and opportunities to participate in the project. Connecting with our alderpersons. We're going to have some new ones after November and December. we're going to be putting up signs all along the trail so people already use it, are aware of what's going on. We're going to be doing some community workshops, and we have one that we're going to talk about later. It's coming up in October on the 21st. There'll be a virtual presentation as well, and just some of the stakeholder groups that we have already been working with, we will continue to work with. Housing Authority is HACA, that owns the public housing, manages that. Spot Creek Conservancy and the Eastport Civic Association. Those are the three big groups that we have been working with already. And then, keeping the city council informed and the various boards and commissions like this one is also on the list here. So next slide.
Oh, I lied, Eric. I'm sorry.
What?
I lied. There's one more for you.
Oh,
but I could do it.
Okay.
Ah,
Well, I won't read through all of this. I'll just summarize that the goals range from improving mobility for residents and visitors to, making the natural areas kind of safe and accessible and well stewarded. And then, basically, there's just a wide range of opportunities, very specific opportunities to improve the ecosystem of this area, in regard to water quality, habitat, the canopy area, understory, stormwater management, upstream, and we're kind of checking all the boxes with this project, I would say. So, pass
Great,
it
thank
back to
you.
you. Sure.
So Megan and Jason will walk us through the specifics of the first phase of the Green Network Connector, which is the pink line going from Hawkins Cove over to Primrose Circle. I will hand it over to Megan.
Thanks, Dan. Can I attempt to share my screen? Because I wanted to kind of point to the site plans as I talk a little bit.
Sure. That would be wonderful. Let's see. Oh my gosh. There we go. Stopping share.
And while we're paused, can I just ask Paul to mute? Because I think we've been getting some background noise that's made it hard for me to hear. Or if we can mute Paul.
Oh, I will.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Paul.
Okay, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, so the first part of the Truxton Green Network Connector begins at Primrose Road and continues along the footpath. It crosses the headwaters of Hawkins Cove, and it'll end about 45 feet after it crosses the channel. The rest of the improvements will be done as part of the Hawkins Cove Restoration Project. The boardwalk improvements are approximately 650 linear feet, leaving about 250 linear feet of existing trail. The city is also going to install some signage and educational elements along the boardwalk. For the first approximately 200 feet, the boardwalk follows the existing footpath. Following detailed topographic survey and tree surveys, we decided to deviate from the existing path and kind of follow the 15 contour along the slope. This was because in this area, the vertical drop is 16 feet over about 90 feet. So it's a 20% slope. So the extent of switchbacks and grading we needed to do in this area to meet ADA slope requirements was very extensive. And we found that this alignment had reduced LOD and also tree impacts. The path will still be usable for pedestrians and bikers. The boardwalk at the start and at the end will be at grade, so we won't need a railing, so that way bikers can deviate, follow the existing path if they want, and then continue on. This just is kind of zoomed in of the first half where you can see we're starting at that sidewalk and continuing along the existing footpath. And then here is where we deviate and we start kind of following the hillside. And then we continue on, and then with some ramps and landings, we're able to meet the ADA slope requirements coming kind of around the steep slope. And then we're able to transition back to just a naturally sloped boardwalk, go over the headwaters, and then we tie into the existing footpath at grade about 45 feet after the channel crossing. During construction, it will generally be linear with the boardwalk. We will run the access kind of parallel to the path at the beginning, and then when it's along the hillside, the construction access will be within the footprint of the boardwalk. So the pile driving equipment will come in, start at the end, and work their way backwards, and then they can come in with smaller equipment to build the substructure and decking. We are still allowing the existing path to be used as a construction access just to give the contractor some flexibility with their means and methods. But you can see no trees will be removed as a result of allowing this footpath to be used as access. There's a couple areas where we have to grade, and then the stockpile area will be wrapped in silt fence. So that way sediment-laden runoff will not leave the project site. About 12 trees are proposed to be removed. None of them are significant or specimen trees. And I'll turn it over to Jason. He can start kind of talking about the environmental resources impacts and mitigation that will be required.
Sure thing. Thanks, Megan. So our team initiated our natural resource inventory work in the fall of 2024. And when we realized that there was likely a better alignment, as Megan was talking about, to come down along that elevation 15 with the boardwalk, we did go back earlier this summer and amended the natural resource inventory to pick up some additional trees, make sure that we were able to avoid wetlands and associated buffers and such. We did delineate approximately 1,000 square feet of non-tidal wetlands. None of the wetland area or their associated buffers will be impacted as part of the project. As Megan did indicate, there is a stream crossing of the boardwalk. That channel, the center line of it is shown on the plan. But that won't be impacted either. The intent is to span that with, with the boardwalk, and even from a construction perspective. Our tree survey, we did individually survey over 80 trees out there. We picked up everything that was 6-inch DBH or diameter breast height and greater. And as Megan indicated, we were able to avoid all the significant trees. So anything, really larger than 24 inches or so shouldn't really be impacted. And we were able to work around one bigger one that was actually a specimen tree. So that's obviously a good thing. We are continuing. We have some coordination with Maryland Department of Natural Resources, just as part of the critical area coordination, just to ensure that there aren't any sensitive species in the area. So we don't have that result back yet, but that has been initiated, and we're working with DNR on it. The project, as has been indicated, is intended to meet all the critical area mitigation requirements. The majority of the project area is in the resource conservation area designation. However, there's the very western end over toward Primrose Road is in the IDA. Overall, there shouldn't be any lot coverage increase. The boardwalk will have gaps, and that isn't per se counted as lot coverage. We did, Megan indicated that there were some trees that will have to be removed. that it was roughly 12 of them. The intent is to mitigate for those, as well as any land disturbance associated with the project. We're currently working with the city planning folks to make sure that everything is calculated correctly. And we're also looking at all the opportunities to address how to address the mitigation. And of course, we would like to mitigate as much as possible on site. And we do have a couple of options that are still in the Spa Creek watershed, where if we do have to go off site, we think we can, increase some canopy, possibly help, put some, additional diversity in some wetland areas in a stream valley, those types of things. The trees on site will, anything that's in the general vicinity of the LOD, or areas that could potentially be impacted by equipment, swinging back and forth if it were like the pile driver or whatever. So those trees will be protected with tree planking. We'll have some areas sectioned off with tree protection fencing, and then the access we would intend to have the access lined with mats and/or mulch. That would also further minimize root impacts to the critical root zone. So overall, the project is, trying to protect the resources. Everybody's wants to walk the path in the forest, and obviously having that in good condition is an important factor for us and the city. So
I can take this slide if you want, Jason.
Yeah, go ahead.
So since we're avoiding the wetland and its buffer, we won't need to submit a JPA to MDE in the core. So we don't need any state or federal permits. The LOD is also less than an acre, so we don't need the MDE general construction permit for stormwater runoff during construction. We will need a City of Annapolis grading permit, and through that review process, the planning and zoning will review that we're complying with critical area requirements. And through that process, the plan and sediment controls are also reviewed and approved through Anne Arundel Soil Conservation District. So fall 2025, we're in the process of completing design plans, presenting to stakeholders, the public on October 21st. Following incorporating any feedback, we'll then start the city permitting process. So we'll be in shape to prepare bid documents this winter, and then the city bid and procurement process will be spring of 2026, and we're hopeful for a summer 2026 construction start, wrapping up next fall. And with that, we can open up for questions.
Thank you. That was excellent. It's very exciting, and it's a great timeline. I think a year from now, we could be walking on the boardwalk, right? I would like that. So to commission members, do you have some questions or comments? Jeremy.
Yeah, so really appreciate the detailed presentation. I'm less familiar with like boardwalk type construction, so I'm just curious of the equipment involved. You mentioned a pile driver. Is that sort of like the biggest or most obtrusive equipment, or what other equipment is really involved when you're thinking through all these access and route impacts and other types of concerns?
The biggest would be the pile driver. It can be on a tracked piece of equipment, and then it has like the hammer drop to drive the piles in. But they can fit within the footprint of the boardwalk, drive the piles on either side, and then it'll start at one end and come to the back. And then smaller equipment can then be used to go in between the piles and start building the substructure and the decking and the railing.
Thank you for that explanation.
And I can see if I can try and pull up a photo from a different project.
Yeah, when I tried Googling things, I think I'm getting results for much larger scale pile drivers.
Yeah, we have one. We did a trail in Columbia, and we had to go through a stream crossing. So we have a photo of that. If I bear with me a minute, I can find it. Or we can move on to other questions, and then I can share it when I find it.
Anyone else? I wanted to ask a little bit more about the tree mitigation. So you are, removing as few trees as you need to and protecting the trees that are staying. I think you said something about you'd be looking at potentially replacing trees or planting trees in other areas to compensate. Can you go back over that again?
Sure. There are some areas of the trail that, particularly down in the valley bottom area near the crossing, where the boardwalk will cross over the channel, and the original or the existing piece of dirt trail will be no longer really functional. So the intent would be to utilize some of those areas to replant. Similarly, if there are any areas, particularly where the switchback comes down the slope, there's a little bit of grading to tie in with the biker dirt path. So that's another opportunity that can be planted on site. Certainly any areas that are the limit of disturbance, but slightly outside of where the proposed boardwalk would be, those areas could be replanted. Now, those may not necessarily result in additional canopy because a lot of the that area will still have canopy over it, but they could be some understory plantings as well. But I do think there will be some opportunities for increased canopy on site, particularly out closer to Primrose. There's some viney area that does have some non-native species in there, and if those are removed, part of the the access and stuff, those can be replanted as well. Now, in terms of offsite area, there are a couple of opportunities where one of Ann's suggestions was maybe to take a look upstream in Spa Creek, where there's another project that's going on, it's stream restoration, that downstream of the actual restoration work, there's some opportunity there that could be planted, and it's in a stream valley with wetlands, so that would be a nice opportunity to enhance those areas as well, and stay in the same watershed.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if there was any, because I know there's so much, like you said, Spa Creek Conservancy does projects, that whole Amory project. I know they were trying to prioritize their flood mitigation projects that they want to do. I didn't know if there were any crossovers with the work that you all are doing.
I'm sorry. So Hawkins Cove is on all the lists. We're working closely with the Resilience Authority on establishing priority lists for flood mitigation. We're also working with the Resilience Authority in the county on priority lists for the Severn River Whole Watershed initiative, and Hawkins Cove and this out branch of that project, this trail, are basically the top of all the lists at this point. So partially because we're at the point we're at and we're ready to move it forward. But it's been a long time coming. So I think everyone's pretty excited about it.
That's great. Are any of these potential tree plantings that you're talking about within the budget of this project, or it would be a separate projects that have to be funded from different sources?
Yeah, so that's why we're encouraging replanting within the project LOD. Then we can use potentially the grant funding. If we start doing mitigation planting outside of the project limit, then we'll have to fund it from an alternate source. We have alternate sources for tree planting from that, that we can take advantage of, but.
Yeah. Anyone else have any other questions? Jeremy.
If anyone else has a question, they can go first. But I did want to ask, since there's the existing path, and I couldn't tell from the presentation if at the end of the project, is it still going to be possible for people to cut through on that existing path, or is that going to be blocked in any way to make sure people are staying on the boardwalk? I'm just curious, because if you've been to a college campus, people cut through.
Yeah, so it will be terminated for the first run of the boardwalk. It'll have to be abandoned in place. You won't be able to cross over, but then the part kind of on the higher point will still be accessible, and that's what kind of connects to other places. So the first couple 100 feet, the path will become boardwalk, and then you can either go along the boardwalk or you can go along the shorter, easier, steeper route and connect back to the boardwalk before you come back down. So,
right, thank you.
So like this part is going to get abandoned, but this part remains.
Okay, thank you.
And then here's a picture of the pile driving equipment. So you can see it's a smaller tracked vehicle, and they'll just construct linearly, like I said, for our sake, because we don't have an adjacent flat area. We'll just start at the end, drive the piles, and work their way back as they go. And the access as they're starting back and working their way back, it will be, as Jason said, like that mulch matted access road to prevent disturbance to the tree roots.
All right, well, I want to thank you very much. This has been great, very informative. I'd kind of heard about it, but it's nice to really have a good view of what you all are planning to do. And if there's anything that the commission can do, sounds like you're well on your way, but if there's any kind of role for us in supporting it or answering any questions or whatever, always feel free to include us.
Thank you.
And,
So
and future projects.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I was
We
saying,
really appreciate the support we've gotten from you so far. And I guess I would say, as we're moving into this sort of next round of outreach for both the trail and for the Hopkins Cove project, we encourage you to reach out to your networks and have those stakeholders get involved.
Yes, if there's information we can put on our Facebook page about your public meetings, we're happy to do that. So, if you have a flyer or something, just send it to us. We're happy to put that up on the Facebook page.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us. You're welcome to stay or go as you wish. We are going to move on now. Just a real quick discussion about the Equitable Public Water Access Plan. It's now, at least when I talked to Jackie and Dylan recently, it was a first reader, I guess, at the council. This is the final plan. We looked at a draft earlier on, I think earlier this summer or late spring, but wanted to give you all a chance to, if you'd like to provide additional comments, we would just need to do it quickly and have them in, I believe, early in October, which is next week. I did send, and Dylan, thank you for passing them along. Dylan did receive some comments. Somebody wrote in comments about the public and sent them to us about the public water access plan, some concerns about the water quality at a couple of the locations of a couple of the access points. So take a look at that email. We can have a quick discussion now if you'd like, if there's interest in, if we know there's interest in reviewing and sending a comments or yay or nay, we can decide that now, and then you can send me any comments you have, over the next few days. Any thoughts? Dylan and Ashley, anything that we need to be considering that is different from what I've said?
Not necessarily. I see Eric is still in here. I'm not sure if he's willing to participate in this matter, but Eric is the one behind, spearheading, this big plan and all the efforts that's gone behind it. So if anyone has any questions, now's a great opportunity if Eric is willing to hear your questions.
Yeah, I thought I'd stick around. I didn't realize this was going to be on your agenda, but when I heard that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Dylan.
I don't believe that when we saw the draft, we had any considerations. I think we just sent a letter in support, I believe.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Any review we would do now. I don't know. Has it changed much since?
No. In fact, we did a pretty extensive outreach leading up to the since of the final draft being issued to the city council for adoption. There were some community meetings in the winter where we shared the changes that were going to be put into the draft, and we're pretty transparent about that. And there's quite a lot of them. In fact, we provided a version that has kind of the red lines that show new text and substantial changes, I would say. And yeah, there's quite a bit that came out of the public comment period for the plan. So we heard from a lot of folks. There's no question, and I'm pretty happy with the outcome at this point. You mentioned the comments that you heard about water quality, and yeah, I mean that's definitely a consideration that we have. There will be some recommendations for swimming, which is not technically permitted in the city, today, but we want to encourage it in places where we know water quality is generally better. We know it's bad after a rain, no matter where you are, but there are places that are closer to the headwaters where it's worse than places where there's more percolation. And there's also the conflicts with boaters. That's a consideration. So we have about half a dozen sites where we think swimming could reasonably be encouraged. There's a separate project that we're working on with Rec and Parks that's new signage for all of the water access locations. And that is, you're going to start seeing some of those new signs in 2026 that are going to really help to improve communication about what you can do at these water access sites and kind of clean up the signage that's there today. There's lots of older signage and outdated signage, and we're just trying to be more consistent with everything and be more efficient with the space. A lot of these sites don't have much square footage. And so the standard park signs today are like fairly big with 2 posts, and they take up a lot of space. And so we're going to be putting up smaller signs that just consolidate the information, and they're going to look a lot better, in my opinion, too. So,
okay, thanks. Was anybody interested in looking at the red line version to see the changes from the last time, I know we're short on time to make any comments on this, but I thought I'd throw that out there. Dylan, I do have a question. We got these comments, and these were to the AEC, the comments, like, what is our responsibility for what we should do? Oh, Paul, I'm sorry, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, no, just a quickie. In regards to the swimmability of the creeks, did any of you catch the news after great effort, the city of Chicago has people allowing people to swim downtown Chicago in the river. So, you know, like Paris cleaned up their river for the Olympics. People are, I don't know if it's year round, and like not after rains, obviously, but they just allow people to start swimming down the Chicago River. You know, if a big city like Chicago can clean it up, we can clean up our place. That's all.
Thanks, Paul.
Kathy, getting to your question.
Dylan and Ashley, with the comments we received, should we be passing them on, responding to these folks, or what's the protocol?
As far as I'm aware, you know, you don't have any obligation to acknowledge them. You know, I mean, people can provide comment on the agenda, but I don't think it's the Environmental Commission's responsibility to respond to them. I can review that, but I would be really surprised if there's any sort of responsibility in the commission. Of course, we always encourage public comment, but no, I don't think you have any responsibility there.
Okay, but probably, I mean, I think I would want to pass them along with any letter that we send on to the city council at this point, so they're aware of them. Does that make sense to do? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's the right thing to do. But again, I don't think you're obliged to.
Okay. Eric, any reason that you'd like to have a copy of this?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, it would be good for me to see them. I know we got some comments early during the public comment period that I don't know if these are what you saw, but yeah, there were concerns about the sediment in the water in different locations and whether that's a kind of a conflict with some of what we're proposing in this public water access plan. And what I've shared with some of the folks who voiced those concerns is that they're real issues. You know, the sedimentation that we see in parts of the city, the headwater areas, particularly of all the creeks, are things that those are issues that we're addressing separately. So, I mean, this Hawkins Cove project that you just heard about, the living shoreline piece, and we didn't really talk about it tonight. That wasn't really the focus of the presentation, but that's a big part of what we're doing at Hawkins Cove is essentially daylighting a stormwater outfall and removing a bulkhead and putting a living shoreline in and removing quite a bit of sediment so that in the future we'll have a different type of condition there. And that's just one example, but we're looking at pretty much every place where there's sediment issues and erosion control problems. Those are separate capital project initiatives, and they're kind of being done in parallel with this emphasis on improving water access. So we're certainly not avoiding that topic, but I would say it's related, just sort of outside the scope of the public water access plan. So.
Okay. Well, I will pass them along, just, you know, so you'll have them.
Thanks.
We're going to do a little bit on the mapping tool. Dylan was going to show us a little bit how to use it, but while we still have Eric, I had a question that I think maybe you could help answer for me. So I did the tool, and I apologize to the members. I meant to send out the link to the map with the materials, and I did not. So Dylan, I don't know if you can provide that real quickly to folks so that everybody could get on the map if they want to. But I'm doing the Anne Arundel County Watershed Stewards Academy, and we had a session on GIS, and they showed us the county mapping tool, you know, so that we could look at, you know, as we're planning, you know, looking at stormwater projects and things like that. You know, we can use the map as a tool. And I went to look at my house in Annapolis, and of course it was a blank spot. It wasn't, the data's not integrated, right? So I guess there's this Annapolis map and there's an Anne Arundel County map. And I was wondering if there are any plans to have an integrated map, which I think would be useful for people.
I'm sorry, when you say integrated map, could you explain a little bit more thoroughly?
I mean, a map that has Annapolis and Anne Arundel County data in it, not two separate tools. But I mean, there could still be two separate tools, but it would have been nice, you know, when I'm looking at it, you know, Anne Arundel County with Annapolis part also within the county, to be able to just look at one map and get the information I need about, you know, various sites.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's definitely possible to include both those things.
So I'll take this a little bit. So the city and the county do work together and share GIS data sets. The city's topography data is provided by the county. They do 3 years, they do like a flyover. And so we use the county's topography data, and we coordinate together on a number of the other pieces, but anything that's specific to like a, you know, property plat, or our infrastructure, our utilities belongs to the city. What were you looking for that you couldn't find?
Well, we were obviously in the county map, and I was looking for my house, right?
Your
to
house.
see what's the slope and what's, you know, where's the water and what is, you know, all those different things. And,
Yeah,
and they're
so-
like, why don't I see anything in there? Because they said, because it's city, this is just county. So that's just why I kind of thought, oh, why isn't it just kind of all in one map? I know they're two separate jurisdictions, obviously, but sure would have been handy. But that's, you know, and not that I'm using maps every day.
So it is a city map for those things. So we are used together. It's just not one tool, and that's because they're different operating systems.
I think if Kathy, if you're referring to this platform where you can kind of locate where you live and find out like what zoning district you're in and like your other kind of local information. I mean, there is something that our IT department is working on now that I think is going to try to, and you may not be, our department was coordinating with IT recently about this. And so I think we may be trying to put something together that tries to do what that county mapping tool does. I have to check with GIS stuff, though. I think, and partly preempted by the fact that there's the software, the GIS software that we've been using to make these preloaded maps that have like zoning and other basic city information is being phased out. And so that they have to redo some of these mapping tools. And so we were thinking about just kind of consolidating. Currently, the city has a number of different GIS mapping tools for specific layers. And I think they were going to try to consolidate them, but I'd have to check on that.
Yeah, that was just something that came up as part of my training that I kind of started to wonder about.
I think
Paul,
it would be helpful to have that. But.
Yeah. Paul, I think your hand is up also. Paul, did you have a question?
Nope, my hand was up from
Before?
my prior comment about the Chicago River. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you, Anne and Eric, for those those explanations for my question. That is all very new to me, the whole mapping thing. So, Dylan, how would you like to go about helping us understand how to explore open spaces and lots in Annapolis as part of the project that Jackie, suggested to us? you were going to do a tutorial for us. I think it would be nice if we could be hands-on with it. We can try and follow what you're doing if that's easier. Although I sometimes just watching, being in it ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, we talked about this last time, I think it was, and we put together this tool that basically has a bunch of different layers that allows someone to kind of evaluate, different space in the city. So the way I'm thinking about it now is, this is, for advisory purposes, for the board, or I guess really, to make recommendations onto areas that, could be useful easements in the future. Obviously that doesn't, commit the city to seeking out these easements, but these are useful efforts. And so, with these different qualities that you're able to observe on these layers, and I'll get back to the layers soon, I think for, review purposes and for planning purposes and to gain some group consensus, I think it would be good to sort of create a matrix, evaluating different properties, kind of based on, input for those different metrics on that matrix, if I'm making any sense. So that could include like tree canopy preserved, adjacent to LMI communities, reduction of habitat loss, connection of habitat, things along those lines. So I think it would be useful as a commission to sort of gather, those values, so that when you're reviewing a property, or just, the city as a whole with this tool, you can kind of throw in those different things, to really like narrow down a stronger list of areas that you'd like to see preserved.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a terrific way to approach it.
Yeah, and it's something that, I wish that I could just provide you guys with, but obviously I think this is something that, needs to come from y'all, and I can help facilitate it, which, I'd like to do here if possible. But like I said, I think first, to be able to just have that discussion, I kind of just want to go over the tool. It's pretty straightforward. And I know it looks like a lot right now, but I think, I think anyone can definitely use this tool and make some good differences from it. So when it opens up, I think it typically just has these 4 layers on, but the base map is just a satellite imagery. Now this is standard satellite imagery. It's not super high quality, but it's pretty decent. You'll also see on the bottom that there's a few tools. I don't think you'll ever need @layer or legend. You could use legend maybe. But measure, I think, is actually going to be a really useful tool for anyone who's looking to actually make any, inferences from this. So say, we go through here, find COA parks, and, maybe we want to measure some open space over here. This is totally random. Obviously you can just figure out the actual quality right there of space, which is obviously useful for an exercise like this. And then you can even sketch. I think it's pretty self-explanatory how that works. There's different tools along that sketch point. And this should theoretically stay there after you finish your sketch. So those are like the really basic things that you can do like right off the bat. And I actually don't totally know if that'll go away after I finish up the sketch. Right, I can remove the sketch. So that's that. You should be able to remove your own sketches. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with it right now. You might be able to remove the layers. It would repopulate after you reload the link. So I'm just going to go through the layers and explain them. But before I get into that, does anyone have any questions, about, the tool itself, or any comments on, the matrix, anything at all before I get into that?
I just wanted to add, well, first of all, Paul, your hand is up. Is that still the same hand or was that a new hand? There's an old hand. Okay. I did want to mention that when Alicia and I met with the Conservancy Board, we did have some discussion about some metrics or, criteria for looking at open space. So I think that that we can certainly come up with our list, but then we will want to share it with them. And because I think we probably like to have kind of a common, list of criteria that we're using rather than using different criteria potentially, depending on, what the work is, what the particular work is. But I think in terms of what they're trying to do and what we're trying to do here, working with the same list would be good. So just wanted to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Alicia, I know you're not speaking, but if you can, if I got that wrong, just wave your hand or something.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense for future efforts. So to get into the layers, I think hitting this one first is probably going to be, I might just go from top to bottom. First, we have prospective conservation areas. And, my understanding is, and I wasn't involved with this planning effort, but this was created or at least advised by the Conservancy Board, and it was later used in the comprehensive plan, potentially among other documents, demonstrating conservation areas that, Conservancy Board found useful. And, I'm not, Eric, again, you're here. If you can provide comment, that'd be great. But I don't really know how much has gone behind these, potential areas. But these were published. And so these exercises have kind of already been done, and it's totally fine if we have overlap with these areas. But yeah, this is a previous.
Are those city-owned properties? The potential.
I don't believe any of these are currently city-owned, but I do have that layer. So
I think it's a combination of city-owned and privately owned. I could be wrong, but there's quite a lot of easements that are in private ownership.
Yeah, you can see, this is another way to use the tool, is to kind of repeatedly overlay city-owned polygons. And, this might be out of date a little bit, but it should be pretty much totally accurate. And you'll see there is a little bit of overlap. So you'll see down here, the polygon color will change, and that's because they all should be in part transparent. So you can see kind of a change on the different polygons if they do overlap. So it seems, this property here is owned by the city. Again, this might not be super, super accurate. So I'll actually double check on that, because that actually doesn't quite doesn't pass the smell test down there. But in general, you should be able to detect that. So here's another easement and city property over here. So this is a public works area. And we do have an easement over here. You'll see that the city owns this, and I'm pretty sure that's accurate. So, whether or not it's progress or maybe some redundancy in this planning effort, I'm not totally sure. But you will be able to kind of detect it by the changes in the map when you change out those two layers.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I didn't hear someone. Okay. So yeah, moving on, City of Annapolis Parks. So that's pretty simple. You'll see the same sort of thing. I think I originally had this polygon different from the same exact color as the city-owned property, but that's fine. So yeah, you'll see here, like, this is Truxton Park. Everyone knows this is the Maritime Museum Park, or the I believe it's called the Ellen Moyer Park, among some others. So this kind of just helps, evaluate how other open space might factor in. So this is sort of a subjective layer that we have here. So it has a lot to do with basically the City of Annapolis Parks layer. Because obviously, there's public green space all throughout the city, but a lot of it is, small street ends that, they're definitely extremely, high value, open space in the city. But in terms of providing, the sort of environmental protection that easements are typically designed to do, those small parks that are scattered throughout, aren't quite that aspect. So for most of these, it's kind of just a radius from larger city parks that provide something along the lines of what typical easements are supposed to do. So it's kind of to provide, a broader look of how far away, is this potential open space from, already high quality green space or high quality easement. Moving down, rename this one. These are city parcels. And so that kind of helps with the planning purposes of, okay, we've got maybe this, green space over here that we want to preserve. You mark it through your sketch. This is the measuring tool right now. And then you turn on the parcel layer and you see, okay, well, there's actually 20 different parcels throughout this area. So it might be a complicated effort. So that's why that's there. We already saw city-owned polygons. So that just shows, whether or not there's already some sort of protection there. LMI communities. So this is highlighted in, surrounded in red. So basically these are indicated as low to moderate income by the EJ screen. And we basically just have these two areas, and that can help with the EJ consideration later on. Majority minority, same kind of deal. It's actually not really appearing all that well, but you can see these lines throughout. I should probably improve the border here, because even I really can't make this out. Sometimes things don't translate well when you move them from ArcPro to a web map. But that's the idea there. It basically just demonstrates, another EJ consideration. So this is a more complicated layer. But basically, and this might be an example when legend is useful. These are swaths of open spaces that are contiguous, colored or classified based on the amount or like the total area. So those polygons, which are largest, are darkest purple. So you'll see that here. So again, this is contiguous. And then the smallest ones will be yellow, which is probably going to be a lot of that in downtown. So yeah, you'll see these tiny things here. And this is basically an inference from the tree canopy layer using the parcel layer and then kind of, subtracting out impervious area from those two. And from that, you can kind of see like what's left over. And then by exploding the layer based on the parcel differences, you can actually make out, like I was saying, contiguous area. And so that's kind of going to be the easiest way to see where, like, where's the areas where we can preserve the most open space, the most tree canopy, by, engaging with the least amount of property owners, and going over the least amount of parcels. That's obviously not the only consideration, but I think it's pretty useful, from, kind of just like an ease of use consideration. And of course, we have the tree canopy layer. And this also isn't the most high detail layer, especially on this web map. The internal file that we use on Arc Pro isn't this grainy, isn't this, low pixel. But it's still, decent at demonstrating how much tree canopy is in that area. This may be able to be updated later, but I think this might be kind of a database issue with Esri. It might have just been too much. It might have been too high, too big of a file, basically, to be, higher quality on the web map. And then impervious surface, it's, obvious. These are any areas that are considered impermeable. So that's parking lots. It could actually be gravel trails, roads, of course, buildings, things along those lines. This is also a good inference, to demonstrate, how much in this general area is already kind of lost to human development. Impervious and preserved. So this kind of like just basically takes that impervious layer and also cuts out what's already been preserved just to ease the planning effort. So here you'll have Truxton Park. This is included because it's already more or less conserved, or rather preserved. And these are what I believe are, these are conservation easements that already exist. Might not capture all of them, but more or less, these are the ones that already exist in the city. I can see a few that are missing from this that need to be rectified soon, but as you know, we're kind of in the middle of a process right now where we're getting together some documents for that. So that might be a little bit from now, but that's definitely something in the pipeline. So this is an interesting one. And if anyone has any questions while I'm explaining all of this, I know this is an information dump, feel free to interject. So basically, these are different census tracts throughout the city. And what we did was that we took the impervious area in that census tract and classified it by what percentage of that census tract is covered in an impervious surface. So in lighter, you have basically highest ratio of greenery to impervious surface. So you'll see this community over here in general. And again, these are census tracts, so it doesn't totally capture the characteristics of the community perfectly. But throughout the census tract, this is the community that has the most tree canopy in comparison to its impervious surface. And then you'll see these polygons, which, I suppose are more or less tied for the least. And it's not surprising, right? It's that West Street area, downtown, Eastport, and then kind of in the middle of these communities over here. So that demonstrates kind of which communities in general are most in need. But obviously there's some other considerations. Moving on then. Okay, that is the last layer. Obviously there's room for more layers to add in, but that kind of gives you an inference as to, all the different factors that might go into whether or not a specific area, a specific community could really use more green space, more easements. And those two aren't exactly the same thing. But yeah, I'm not trying to explain it to death, but if anyone has any questions, happy to answer them. And yeah, I'd love to see, you know, how we can pull together some of those metrics and some of those preservation desires, so we can kind of more acutely use this tool to bring forth an effort.
Sorry, I've got my cat wants to bother me here. Thank you, Dylan. Questions for using the map? Comments on the metrics that we might use?
Ian?
Hey, I know not about this mission, but I'm just gonna interject and say, when you're thinking about metrics, one thing I'd recommend looking at is the Maryland DNR Trust Fund Targeting Map. It has a lot of metrics around these different criteria that I think you would find helpful, and it's also helpful to try to sync up with the way the state thinks about things, so that you're crossing tools like you suggested, Kathy. So it's not reinventing the wheel.
And what was the name of that map?
So it's the Maryland DNR Trust Fund Targeting Map.
Targeting map. Okay.
And it's pretty fun. Yeah, it's census based also, and so it can be, it's not pure granular, but I think actually you'll find there's in some cases more detail than what we were just seeing. So just give it a look-see, and you might find some interesting metrics there.
Thank you.
Sure.
So just thinking practically how we would go about doing this, right? We obviously never have time at these meetings to like really take a fine-tooth comb. I think it would be something we would need to do on our own. So, think about it. Send me an email, unless you want to talk about it right now. Send me an email. Let me know like what your bandwidth is to kind of dig into the map some, or checking out the trust fund targeting map, which sounds really interesting. Because I think to me, and if somebody else has a different approach, would love to hear it. I just think we're going to need people who are interested, we should dig into it individually, and then we come back together and maybe through email, we could come up with our list, write our criteria list, and then individually dig into the map for those who are interested, and then come back together at a meeting and kind of go through what people have discovered and what questions they have. So just want to open it up to your thoughts about that approach. Or is there a better way to do this? You all are thinking hard about it. So let's do this by email and kind of figure out our approach, if that would work. A couple of thoughts I had, though, while Dylan was showing us the map. I'm kind of wondering, are there different departments or agencies in the city or the city council who are already hearing from some constituents who know of an area that they'd love to see done different? And I'm thinking about this because I was reading an article about a neighborhood in, I think it was Hyattsville, who there was like a vacant lot or something, and they made an urban food forest out of it, right? Which is very cool, useful to the neighborhood. People loved it. I know one of the things that the resilience plan is supposed to address, as you guys, as Dylan and Jackie and Ashley work on it, are like food deserts, and not that a lot with some apple trees on it or whatever is going to feed the neighborhood. But it just made me think about that connection between food and health and bringing the neighborhood together in some cases. So I don't know if there are departments or the city council that ever hear about people who have interest in doing that kind of thing, but just don't know how to go about doing it. Not necessarily an urban food forest, but some use. From the city staff, any thoughts about that?
Good question. Does the city have any type of community garden? Like the type where a resident can purchase a plot and then use that plot to grow, really anything. It can be vegetables, but it can also be, natives or whatever. Is there an effort like that? And I'm sorry, I apologize that I don't know that. I have been going through the web pages, but wanted to double check.
Yes, so we have the fire department, Eastport Fire Department lot. And I believe, yes, community can purchase those, but I think they've been bought up for quite a while. Someone might correct me on that because that was before my time, but that's my understanding. There are some other community gardens, and I think one that was just completed over gosh, I'm blanking on the community name. But I believe it's a private. No, actually, there was on City Park. I'll have to send you that information. Like I said, I'm blanking the name. There are a few, but in terms of ones that are up for grabs, I don't think there's anything right now.
Yeah, I'd love to see that that information. If you can dig it up, that would be great. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we'll just move this to email and proceed from there. So moving on to public engagement opportunities, definitely a few things I want to hit on here, which includes Ashley's newsletter, which I looked at and looks really nice. So thank you for sending that. So definitely want to spend a couple minutes on that. Some of the things we talked about last time, Jeremy, I know you've been working with the Resilience Authority on an idea for symposium or meeting, and now they're pulling together a group based on this watershed grant, this large watershed grant. So I think that Jackie's had some conversations with them, and you potentially have too. Is there anything that you can tell us about those conversations?
Yeah, so all I really have to share right now is people seem enthusiastic about the idea of some sort of meeting or gathering about around the Severn all caps whole watershed award and sort of like a 1-year checkpoint. We haven't had a conversation around that idea yet as a group, but we've got something scheduled for next week as like a very first organizing call. So still very early days, but I'll keep the AAC, the rest of the commission posted, and if you're interested in participating in the planning, let me know. I think we'll keep it small on this first call, but probably have a larger team of contributors once things really get moving.
So who's participating in this small group?
So far, the Resilience Authority, obviously, and folks from the Severn River Association. Some folks from the city also responded to the poll, and the county, and possibly the Severn River Keeper as well.
And is this for like a one-time thing you're talking about, or are they talking about a series of meetings around this grant, the funding and the implementation? And
the event I'm envisioning is, I mean, really a one-time thing for now, but potentially that would become maybe an annual or some sort of recurring thing.
okay.
Or just
is this like led by the Resilience Authority and we're supporting, or are you like taking kind of a lead role in this? How is this?
I figured our contribution as the commission is really just time towards planning
Okay.
or other ways around the edges. So really just sort of my volunteer time as a contributor when it comes down to logistics of an event like this, depending on the size. Obviously, we don't have a budget as a commission, so it'd take other partners to help, like book a venue potentially, or just depends how big or small we end up going. And I don't think we've articulated the vision yet as far as the size we're going. If this is going to be a more public facing thing and actually be more engagement oriented, or if it's more of just like a partnership, strengthening the network, training, like a lot of these city, county agencies and NGO partners obviously all work together frequently, but they never really have an opportunity to gather and focus on things they're doing in the Severn, so that's sort of the crux of the idea, is to give them that opportunity to gather in that context and hopefully strengthen the connections and get a little positive press and celebration for themselves.
Yeah, that sounds terrific. So keep us informed. Let us know where we can help, because I'd probably love to volunteer to help when they get to the point where maybe they need, whatever. But yeah, for now, thanks for taking that on and going and representing us. Just keep us up to date. Let us know what you need.
Yeah, so far just an idea, and we'll see where it goes from here. So
okay,
thank you.
Great, thank you. So also, Alicia, thank you for sending out the links to the other boards and commissions. So everybody, you should be able to now, be able to find those. I'm wondering if we should, if it would be of interest to people to kind of divide up the boards and commissions and review their agendas and see if there's anything that touches on the work we do. It would be a lot for one person. There are some that obviously probably wouldn't have any connection to us, but maybe one of the things I'll do is go through the list and see which ones I think might have connections to the work we do, and then see if how many there are, and then if maybe everybody could take a couple and just kind of track those agendas and see if there are connections to the work they're doing. Any thoughts about taking that approach? I feel like, I know we're all volunteers, everybody's super busy. So let me know when we get to the point where it's like, no, I have no bandwidth for that. But I just thought, so I personally have not done a lot of that. I don't have any visibility on what these other boards and commissions are working on. Alicia, are you trying to say something?
Yeah, I am. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, but maybe right now it doesn't need to be our focus, since we've already connected with a couple other commissions. But I think having some visibility down the line makes sense. I don't know if we need to add that to our plate right now.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense too. And one of the things that we're going to talk about in a minute is like next year's priorities. And I know that we did have this year to try and connect more with boards and commissions. So, and as you say, we've connected with the Conservancy Board and the Transportation Board, right? So that's definitely some good connections there. So thank you, Alicia, for that perspective. Yeah, but we don't want to lose track of that idea. Linda.
Hi there. I just want to touch on something when we were talking about public engagement opportunities. And, I'm pretty involved with Save Our Trees, and so was Mary Ann when she was on the board. And I wanted to let people know that there is an opportunity to volunteer this Saturday, the 27th, at Truxton Park, which is in the city. And we will be cutting ivy and other invasive species. I think I saw Dylan's name on the sign up, Genius. So
You sure did.
Good, I'll see you there then. So that's this
great.
Saturday, 9:45, Truxton Park. We usually meet down by the boat ramp. I can either send you the information, or you can probably just go to Save Our Trees and find it there. But it's just a couple hours, 9:45 to noon. You sign up, they'll give you a quick overview of how to cut the ivy, what we're doing, wear long sleeves, closed-toed shoes, gloves. And if you have clippers, bring those. So, and it's fun, but it's a lot of work too.
Yeah, no, excellent effort. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, if anybody's interested, sign up. I know I can't do it this weekend, I'm sorry, but I hope that you get lots of volunteers.
Yeah, I saw it. I wish I could, but I can't this weekend either. One of these days I'll actually be able to go to a Save Our Trees event.
Well, as the weather gets cooler, they start doing it more often. They take off during the summer because there are too many ticks and mosquitoes and snakes and blah. But as the weather gets cooler, this is the first one starting for this fall. Will be Saturday.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and also, so Dylan had sent out an old email distro list that the AEC used to use, and we wanted to try to test it out and see if it's still valid, but then also have a plan for how we'd like to use it if we're going to use it. But Dylan, you had a thought for, I don't know, maybe the time has passed for that. You had a thought of using it for something, some information that you were thinking you wanted to get out, but you wanted to talk to the AEC about it first.
Yeah, the issue arose that, there's just two things. And we've talked about both before. One is that, I think for what we were trying to do, it would have been fine. But I do think, it's still appropriate for the AEC to be the one. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be the entire AAC or just one member of the AAC, but to ultimately be responsible for sending it out. I'm not trying to take over the list, as it can develop over time, whatever works. But I understand that this is an effort that the AAC wants to have and wants to have control over, and I want to respect that. But the other issue is that for this mailing service, for the list that we have, I haven't found a mailing service that would be totally free. And the issue then becomes, if this list, would include any sort of promotion of a business, it might be an ethical concern if the city is paying for that list, even if it's being sent out by an AEC member. And Ashley and I talked a little bit about this. I believe it was yesterday, maybe it was today. How we can sort of be mindful of those ethical concerns. I think we can get into that. But no, yeah, the desire to use it was for the ongoing Parks for Pollinator event through iNaturalist the city's running, which does end in about 6 days. We've gotten pretty good participation on it, so it's not too concerning. There's also some issues I've had just like in terms of technical understanding of how these services work that I've ran into. But yeah, I think these are issues that, can be solved over time. And obviously we do have the listserv option still, which is kind of where this was coming from originally. And Bill,
Hey,
I'm
Dylan?
sure you can. Yes.
I'm not sure I understood what you were talking about, the ethical concerns. What is the concern there?
So from what I understood from previous conversations is that, the AEC wanted to kind of talk about all things environmental, and that could include, businesses that are doing environmental things or promoting
Oh,
events.
no.
Lines.
Well,
Yeah.
volunteers, like say Save Our Tree wants volunteers, right? Maybe. Those kind of nonprofit organization opportunities, if they have a grant open, maybe something like sending it out about that. The newsletter that Ashley's doing, right? It'd be great to use it to send out the, help you guys get wider distribution. We could use it for the newsletter, but certainly not to promote any commercial businesses. Same thing that, discussion we had with the Facebook page. That's not the intent.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think maybe I have a bit of a misunderstanding then. But yeah, okay. It sounds almost like you're actually saying that the AAC to have a separate email list from the one that Ashley's creating. Did I hear that correctly?
No. I mean, you guys have your own method of distribution. This could just be an extra, like we put the newsletter on the Facebook page. Then if we're going to use this distro list, we could send it out to the distro list, right? But if we end up using this distro mail serve or whatever, I'm not sure I'm even quite clear about that. We would need to know that we're not just one time send stuff to people, right? We need to know that we're going to send these things to people. They're going to get some kind of information on a regular basis. But certainly not to take the place of your own, promotional efforts, just to supplement them.
Okay. I'll let Ashley chime in. See if I can.
Yeah, Dylan and I were talking about it, and I wasn't exactly sure if it was something you all wanted to come from you that I helped create, but I am also very much on board with me doing it and sending it out as well to that listserv and putting in whatever you all want. That was one of the main things I did in my previous role was all of our outreach. So a monthly newsletter and Instagram, all the web pages, and it came from the city. And so, in talking with Jackie, I think we're comfortable with that, but it would be collaborative. So events and different things that you all wanted to be highlighted, I could do that. And then also, if you all wanted more ownership of it, you could certainly take it. But, sometimes with that, you have to be good at the graphics and all the font, all of that technical stuff that I enjoy doing and don't mind doing. So I'm here to help. And Jackie and I have talked about doing it every other month. So it would start November and then we do another one January and then one right before Earth Month and kind of start at that frequency for right now. And
so I thought this was an effort from your office that we were just like weighing in on. So this is
yeah, that is what I thought too in my discussions with Jackie. And then I just wasn't completely sure and didn't want to assume that I was taking it if you all wanted it. But I did kind of think that was the direction we'd likely be going in. And I'm more than happy to have it be in that direction. I'm actually super excited about that opportunity. So
which to make it a collaborative effort?
For me to kind of be spearheading it, for it to come from Sustainable Annapolis, and I'm putting it together the way I did today, and collaborative, and to the extent that you could always email me, hey, here's something for the newsletter, that kind of a thing, and I could add it in there, especially if Save Our Trees events and stuff, and maybe I'm not looped into everything yet. You could feed me ideas, but I would certainly want to take the bulk of that workload from you all and help in that way.
Yeah, I know we did talk about a newsletter, and I know that at one point there was an AEC newsletter, and it was that Bill, was it Bill who did it, or Paul? But Bill, I think, and it was impressive. It was a lot though, right? It was a lot of work. And I don't, and everybody speak up, please feel free to jump in here. I don't know that anybody here has the bandwidth to do that. But I know I would certainly like to be able to, provide ideas for the newsletter, to support your work. So I don't know, other thoughts from the group?
Yeah, this is Bill.
You
I
guys
used
get
to,
oh, Bill, you're here. Hi, sorry.
yeah, I used to do that newsletter, but that was many years ago. I could help contribute, but I certainly don't have the bandwidth to do all of that I used to do.
Yeah, other thoughts?
I'd have two. One would be so I could have, like Dylan said, we're not right now purchasing any sort of platform, which eventually down the line for things like this you do need, but budget process, they're low, low amounts. For right now, I would just use a free, what I'm using is Canva, and just kind of start it as the PDF like I sent you all. But what I can do with that is in Canva, I can make one that's Facebook sized and Facebook accessible, like a little taste of what the 2-page newsletter is, but in a Facebook format for you to put on your, it sounds like you run a I don't have a Facebook, so I apologize. I haven't checked out your page, but it sounds to have like an AEC Facebook page. So, so I'd be happy to do the newsletter and then also create a Facebook specific post. And my second point I kind of already made, and that was that I would see how it goes and eventually hope to budget for like a MailChimp or something that's like $20 a month and low hanging fruit. So yeah.
So if anybody has ideas, I know we're running a little short on time, for the newsletter for Ashley, please email them in. I know like the next thing on our agenda, I think, is asking about recruiting members because we have 3 openings on the commission right now. And so unless Hillary Raftovich has 3 people ready to go, would love to have you put something in the newsletter saying, hey, the Annapolis Environmental Commission, but not sure where that stands. Dylan, did you have an update on that, on the commission vacancies?
Unfortunately, I don't have any updates on that front.
Okay. Maybe you could hold a space for that, Ashley. And if it doesn't look like we have people ready, that they're ready to put through, like to the city council or whatever, with the election and everything, I'm sure all that kind of stuff may be on hold. Would be great to maybe put a little thing in the little blurb in the newsletter about that to recruit some members.
I have another quick question.
Oh, and the other thing is, I was trying to think. Let's see, I was looking at the newsletter. I don't know if you'd also want to put in, I probably want it too long, but things like maybe some kind of updates on like different projects that are going on around like the AMRI or whatever, so that people kind of have some awareness that there is all this work going on that involves the city, but other organizations too, right?
Yeah, that is the goal.
Community. Yeah,
definitely.
And I'm sorry, you had a question?
Yeah, I haven't yet looked at the rules and regulations for your committee. Are you a 12-person body?
9.
9. Okay. I need to, if anyone, Dylan, you probably have it or it's somewhere on the drive, but if anyone happens to have the rules and regs for that handy, I'd love to take a look just so I know, when you vote on your chair, all those things. So.
Yeah, that'll be in January that we will be doing that.
Cool.
So. Okay, so anybody has any thoughts about content for the newsletter? Let Ashley know. And I think we're still up in the air about how we want to use this distro list, but I want to make sure that we have 9 minutes left. So maybe we can continue that discussion.
I still need Dylan to tell me like where it exists, because I'm still confused about how I will actually access it, but I know he and Jackie will help me figure it out.
Okay. Being new is not easy. It's hard. Okay, so we're on to ongoing business and updates. So Dylan, anything that you want to highlight for us? I know that the monthly highlights were included in the meeting materials I sent, so everybody should have that overview. Anything specific that you want to bring to our attention?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that we'll soon be having our first outreach efforts for the climate action plan. We'll be engaging a task force of different stakeholders at the city. So that'll be, people from different institutions, departments in the city, state, local, or state and county government, among other representatives. So that'll be really good. I was hoping to have the report for the greenhouse gas inventory tonight, but I'm told I should get that tomorrow. So I'm hoping to relay that very soon. But from what we've seen so far, it's looking like a pretty thorough analysis. I think this is why the analysis was able to be so thorough. We were extremely detailed with all the data we were able to compile from the community and from the city, because we understand that as a city, we've kind of got niche characteristics. Can't really be, they can't just derive from national averages, mixed in with our data. So yeah, really happy to relay that soon. And there also, were some good indicators that a lot of that greenhouse gas that is created by the city and by the community, there's a realistic path forward to reduce those gases. Otherwise, I think we've talked about some of the things already. There's movement on different projects like Truxton Trail, continuing to move on the easements project, continuing to make progress on some pilot projects, new initiatives, also related to like we have a project right now where we're basically trying to procure solar energy, making good progress there, but nothing I can really properly update you on at the moment. You've all seen, hopefully you've all reviewed the highlights, and happy to answer any questions about anything that may have popped out to you.
Questions, anyone? The climate action plan, that's a continuation of that University of Maryland's support. And separate from the resilience
EFC is helping us with the resilience planning efforts, but it's not directly tied in with the climate action plan.
So is the climate action plan separate from the resilience plan? Those are two separate products?
Yes, more or less. Yeah.
Okay. And so the status of the resilience plan, where is that? I know that got pushed off because of this, the support from the University of Maryland and those, the sessions they did with us and those other jurisdictions, and then planning like some specific projects to put into a climate action plan.
So right now, we've had UMD work with Department of Public Works to identify, some efforts that they would like seen, assisted with in tandem. There's a project going on right now that would be included in the overall resilience plan. So, that technical assistance will be provided, mostly collaborating with Department of Public Works. And when that's done, we'll continue to do sort of a breakdown of needs and data gaps and things like that, and really get back into documenting it all together and having something that's more or less a long-term resilience plan.
Right. So I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being slow here. So the climate action plan is not the resilience plan. The climate action
Yes.
plan, is that part of the emissions, the greenhouse emissions inventory, or because you're
So
maybe
the
you can
climate action plan,
like the difference between the two, if you want to write it out in an
Sure.
email, so I can understand it better. I'd
and I can definitely
appreciate it.
see how the two, could seem similar. Because in a lot of ways, resilience is responding to climate. So resilience is kind of a climate action effort, isn't it? But no, the climate action plan is our response to the greenhouse gas inventory that we're doing. And that's why they're going to be done one after the other. So from the greenhouse gas inventory, we'll work with stakeholders throughout the community to identify ways that we can reduce those greenhouse gas emissions. And yeah, that's like the best way I could summarize it. The resilience plan focuses on the stressors of climate change and how we can respond to those stressors, but doesn't necessarily, or at least directly, involve reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Right. And it's larger than the resilience plan is larger than the projects that UMD is working on with Public Works, right? It's bigger than that.
Yes, so
too.
UMD is helping DPW address some of the gaps they're having in certain planning efforts that are, on a smaller scale. And then we'll zoom back out after that effort to, have a broader community effort.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry to be slow there. So member updates and future agenda ideas. Before I turn it over to you guys for some updates, I did want to say that I want to talk about the fall meeting schedule. I will not be here for the October meeting, so I'm hoping Alicia is feeling better and has her voice back, because she has agreed to step in to lead that meeting, and we'll probably be doing some of the work on developing the agenda for that also. So I'm sorry that I will be missing that. But did want to talk quickly about November, December, because the November meeting falls the night before Thanksgiving and the December meeting would fall on like Christmas Eve or something. So I know that we don't want to do that. I think last year we did a meeting like in early December to kind of be a November, December meeting. Do you remember, Jeremy? Is that what we did?
I think we usually try to cancel December, but maybe adjust the November meeting.
Okay, so do you guys have a preference? Would you rather do it earlier in November, or do earlier in November, or push it into like right after Thanksgiving? I'm looking at the dates here
I
quickly.
think we usually just have to, if we're planning to do virtual, we just need to see what's available for the city staff. Or if we were trying to do it in person, maybe there's a little more flexibility.
Is there interest in doing another in-person this year? I won't make it October for Alicia's sake, but think about it. Send an email. We're just sending emails this
I'd be
time.
fine with another in person.
You'd like one?
Sure. And the I kind of like the idea of the combination early December rather than having an earlier in November one, maybe, because then it would be kind of close to the October one.
That's true. That is a good idea.
I agree.
And bring snacks.
Huh?
You can have it in
What was
person and bring snacks.
Oh, like a little holiday party there too. So maybe we'll check that like December 4th or December 3rd and see if how that works with other meetings, and see maybe an in-person for that. Okay, I can work on that. And then in October and or November, December, we did want to start having the 2026 priorities meeting in those months, so that we're getting them finalized a little bit earlier than we did this past year, because I got them finalized kind of late. So wanted to start that priorities discussion in October and November, and I'll work with Alicia if there's time to start that discussion in October. And if not, we'll definitely do it in that November, December meeting. so start thinking about the priorities we have and any, additions, deletions, changes that you would like to, that you would like to see in those priorities. And then I will turn it over, and I know we're a minute over, to you all members, if there are any updates that you would like to share quickly. All right, I will send a follow-up email with our list of to-dos and who's doing them. Remember the water access plan, take a look at that. At least send me an email if you don't have any comments. Send an email to that effect, or that you just support it as is or whatever. Just, please let me know. And we'll send, I'll pull those together and get something off to the city council. All right, if that is it, I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. This was a great meeting. I feel it was very productive. And sorry I will miss you in October, but I will see you in email. So take care.